The US dollar's global dominance is officially on the brink of collapse. As nations like China and Russia accelerate their shift toward independent digital ledgers, the greenback's 80-year hegemony faces an unprecedented existential threat. This isn't just about crypto hype. It is a calculated geopolitical realignment designed to bypass the Federal Reserve's iron-fisted control. We are dissecting the exact mechanics of this transition and the critical vulnerabilities that could trigger a total monetary reset. Scenario that would actually force a pivot in the global financial order. Sit back, grab a cup of water, and let us get to it. To understand where we are going, we first have to look at how we got here. For decades, the American dollar has functioned as the world's reserve currency, backed by the largest economy on the planet and the military might of the United States. Ever wonder why global oil trades are settled in dollars? It is not just habit. It is a massive, complex network of trust, trade, and geopolitical strategy that keeps the global engine running. When you ask if Bitcoin could replace that, you are really asking if a math-based protocol can replace a multi-trillion-dollar system of government enforcement and diplomatic leverage. Let us start with the first point, which is the undeniable efficiency of a borderless asset. Imagine you are a merchant in a country where the local currency is hyperinflating. Every morning, you wake up and your money is worth 10% less than it was the day before. It is a nightmare scenario that millions of people around the globe face every single year. In this specific context, the dollar is already failing these people. Bitcoin offers an alternative. It is permissionless, it is divisible, and it is entirely immune to the inflationary pressures of any single central bank. I remember speaking with a developer from Argentina who told me that for him, Bitcoin was not a speculative investment or a get-rich-quick scheme. It was a survival tool. He could work for a client in the United States, receive payment in digital assets, and avoid the volatile fluctuations of his home currency. That is a real, measurable win for millions of people today. It proves that for a significant portion of the global population, the transition is already happening. They're opting out of unstable fiat systems because they have no other choice. Now, here is where things get interesting. That leads us to our second point, which is the institutional level up. If Bitcoin is just a tool for individuals in developing nations, it remains a fringe movement. But look at the data from the last 5 years. We have seen major asset managers like BlackRock, the largest investment firm in the world, launch exchange-traded funds that track the price of Bitcoin directly. This is not speculation. This is institutional adoption. A report from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis estimated that institutional interest contributes to over 60% of the daily volume in major crypto markets. When institutions get involved, the risk profile changes. It stops being a digital asset only for enthusiasts and starts becoming a legitimate, regulated component of a balanced investment portfolio. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I drop videos like this every week to help you understand the intersection of technology and finance. Stick around because the last point I'm going to share is the one that most experts are missing entirely. Okay, so we have the individual survivalists on one hand and the corporate giants on the other. But neither of these things on their own replaces the United States dollar. The dollar is woven into the fabric of the entire global financial system. Replacing it would require something akin to a collapse of faith in the American model itself. And that brings us to the third point, the one I've been saving for you. The only scenario where Bitcoin genuinely replaces or fundamentally displaces the dollar is if the United States defaults on its own obligations. Think about it. The entire system is built on the idea that treasury bonds are the safest asset in history. What happens when they are not? We have seen the national debt exceed $35 trillion in the year 2024. If the cost to service that debt becomes so high that the government can only pay it by printing more money, we enter a cycle of devaluation that destroys the purchasing power of the dollar. This is where the narrative shifts. It is no longer about Bitcoin being better than the dollar. It is about the dollar being so broken that people are forced to look for a neutral, hard asset alternative. This is the ultimate hedge. In this specific scenario, Bitcoin does not need to beat the dollar in a race. It just needs to be the last one standing when the dollar loses its status as the world's most trusted currency. Let that sink in for a second. When you look at the growth of Bitcoin not as a currency, but as a digital insurance policy against the mismanagement of fiat money, the whole debate changes. Most people spend all their time worrying about whether Bitcoin will become a daily medium of exchange for buying coffee. But that is missing the forest for the trees. The real value isn't in buying coffee. It is in owning a store of value that cannot be manipulated by any government at any time for any reason. There is a profound sense of security in that. It is an asset that operates on pure, immutable math rather than the shifting winds of electoral politics. Even if you never buy a single Satoshi, understanding why people flock to this technology tells you everything you need to know about the current state of our economy. So there you go. Three very real levels of this evolution, starting from individual survival, moving through massive institutional adoption, and finally arriving at the ultimate structural hedge against a sovereign debt crisis. If you got value from this, share it with someone who is asking the same questions, and subscribe so you do not miss our next breakdown of the financial systems shaping your future. We have something even more interesting coming up next week regarding the future of automated wealth, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. The world of finance is changing faster than ever, and having a framework to understand it is your biggest advantage. Keep learning, stay curious, and keep your eyes on the long term trends rather than the daily noise of the markets. See you in the next one.